Mr. Gallagher.
Director Burns, at the risk of stirring up unwanted nostalgia or adding gray hair, I feel like you're in a unique position, given your experience in Russia and negotiating with the Iranians, to answer some of these questions. Is there any evidence that the Central Bank of Iran has stopped financing terrorism?
I'll have to get back to you on that, Congressman, as well. I just want to give you a well-informed answer.
And happy to address that in classified session. I think it's important perhaps for the president to understand to what extent they are prior to us deciding to lift sanctions on the Central Bank of Iran, and that's the intent of the question. So I look forward to following up on that. A related question, do the Russians believe that they have leverage over us because of the ongoing negotiations over Iran's nuclear program in Vienna?
I don't think the Russians, right now they're so preoccupied in Ukraine, I don't think they exaggerate the influence or the leverage that they have. I mean, over the years, and we'll see what happens now, given the depth of, division over Ukraine. But, what's been remarkable over a number of years is the extent to which they've contributed to those negotiations. Now, it remains to be seen whether that's going to continue, but up until this point, that's been the case.
So then do you view, what's the lead negotiator? Is it Ulyanov? Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that.
Yeah.
Bragging that he's swindled us in Vienna, is that just mere bluster? More to the point, Lavrov demanding that no sanctions with respect to Ukraine impede their ability to do business with Iran going forward. Should we view that as bluster then?
No, I take that seriously. I mean, it's something we have to take seriously as well, and I don't think we can just assume that that's bluster. So, no, that's something that we can't minimize.
Maybe to put it a little bit differently, would it be, have the negotiations with Iran over their nuclear program been affected by any other issues, such as the sudden need to backfill Russian oil supplies on the global market, or the remarkable fact that one of our P5+1 partners has made the sudden decision to arm Ukraine? Have the negotiations been affected in any way by those developments?
I'm not involved directly in the negotiations, Congressman, but I don't think they have. I think this is being done on the merits about whether it makes sense from the point of U.S. national interest to go back into the JCPOA, recognizing, as I said earlier, that we got lots of other problems posed by this Iranian regime, quite apart from the nuclear issue as well.
And given that you've been one of the leading sort of envoys for this administration, is the plan, if there is a deal in Vienna, to bring that plan to the UN Security Council for some sort of vote?
I honestly don't know. Sir.
You don't know? Okay. I think the concern, at least the concern I've heard from a lot of my constituents, is that the president has gone out and made an explicit promise, one that I agree with, by the way, to turn Vladimir Putin into an international pariah. But at the same time, if we have the State Department, who's not represented here today, saying we're going to continue to cooperate with Iran on the with Russia on the P5+1 negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, well, those two things don't necessarily add up. Now, I get diplomacy is complex. You've literally written the book on it, and we have to manage multiple crises. But it seems obvious to me that the Russians are at least trying, in a public narrative, if nothing else, to connect the two issues, though you have just said that they remain unconnected, if that makes sense.
Now, what I said, Congressman, is from the point of view, as I understand it, of our approach to the negotiations, they're not connected. We're doing this on the merits with regard to the Iranian nuclear issue. How the Russians try to play that question of leverage that you mentioned is a genuine concern. We have to pay careful attention to that.
And then quickly, going to the question of the lessons that China might derive from the Ukraine crisis with respect to Taiwan. You've both said that they, or at least Director Burns, you said, I think Director Haynes, you said the same, that they are unsettled by what they've seen in Ukraine, and you laid out an argument for that. But is your assessment that they're unsettled, is that based on any information we have, or is that just based on your experts sort of projecting?
Well, I mean, it's assessment based on how our experts see this, but I'd be glad in the other session to talk a little bit more about that.
Very much look forward to that. And then finally, Director Haynes, the New York Times reported that over a 3-month period, senior administration officials shared U.S. intelligence with the Chinese related to Russia's troop buildup in Ukraine, and then the Chinese then shared that information with Moscow. Have we done a damage assessment of our decision to share that intelligence with the Chinese?
I don't know about the article that you're talking about. We shared, obviously, information with NATO and with our European allies and other partners around the world. What we shared, to the extent we shared much with China, was not something we expected would not be handed over.
Okay, perhaps we can follow up because I'm out of time, but so you dispute the New York Times article?
I'm sorry, I just haven't read the New York Times article. I'm just answering the question as I understand you
Okay.
proposing it.
I'll
so-
print it out and we can look at it in classified.